Welcome, everyone, to the NoDQ.com live recap of AEW Dynamite for Wednesday, February 5th, 2024. We have AEW Revolution coming up, but first we have AEW Grand Slam, which will not be a pay-per-view event, but rather a television show that airs on TBS. We'll talk about Grand Slam, Revolution, but let's get to this Dynamite recap. Shout out to everybody watching, whether it's live or on demand. I appreciate your viewership and support. We opened up the show with Jay White outside the building being interviewed by Renee Paquette. Jay White said that he has to rely on guys like Adam Copeland and FTR to battle the Death Riders. Now, as he was saying this, the Death Riders approached him, ready to beat him up, but fortunately for him, Adam Copeland, and FTR were right there behind them. We had this wild brawl. They brawled all the way to the ring. Pac was able to save Moxley from the Blade Runner. Cope took out Claudio with the spear. Moxley retreated. And then Copeland got on the microphone and challenged Moxley to a match for Revolution. Moxley, though, turned it down. And then White proposed a tag match for Grand Slam. White and Cope versus Moxley and Claudio. And that match was accepted. So that match will take place at Grand Slam. I presume Copeland will pin Jon Moxley and he'll get the title match at Revolution. As I've mentioned over previous weeks, I'm not interested in Moxley versus Copeland. I don't think Copeland's the guy to beat Moxley, and I really would like to see the Death Rider storyline come to an end, but I don't see Moxley losing the title until Double or Nothing at the earliest. Segment was solid, though. They set up the match for Revolution, even though Moxley did not accept. You got the Grand Slam match. I really don't care about the match just because of the fact that they're not airing this show live. I still have an issue with that. But they're using it as an attempt to gain some new viewers with the NBA lead-in. I don't know how well that's going to work out for them, but if that's what TNT wants, then that's what TNT gets. We had our first match of the evening, which was Will Osprey versus a member of the Don Callis family. Don Callis came out there and revealed that Osprey's opponent was Mark Davis. Mark Davis, the former tag team partner of former partner with Will Osprey and Kyle Fletcher when they were a trio. Davis was teaming up with Fletcher, but then they split up, and now I guess Mark Davis is back to being a heel, or is he going to turn babyface again? I don't know, but obvious Osprey wasn't losing this one. Match was standard. Don Callis was out there on commentary. Davis almost beat Osprey. He had a pile driver. Osprey kicked out of that. And then he exposed the middle turnbuckle, but Osprey was able to get him first. Osprey beat him with the hidden blade. 1, 2, 3. No surprise here. And then afterwards, Osprey got on the microphone. He brought Kenny Omega to the ring, and Omega said that he said that Mark Davis can get some help. There are people he can trust. Again, makes me think that maybe Mark Davis was just heel for this one match and he'll be a babyface again. I don't know. I don't really care much. Fletcher and Takeshita then came out there. They wanted to fight, but Don Callis held them back. And then Omega said that the match coming up at Grand Slam, the tag match, will prove that the future is with Omega and Osprey. Again, same issue I have with the other Grand Slam matches. I just don't really have much interest in it now that it's going to be on a lengthy tape delay. Like the results are already going to be out. It's basically an episode of Collision in Australia. I wish it was live. Just my take on it. Build was okay though. The hype for this, it's fine. We had a video package for Ricochet versus Swerve Strickland in the main event. And then the Hurt Syndicate came to the ring. By the way, Ian says, am I skipping Grand Slam? Well, I'm watching the NXT show and I will be doing coverage of the NXT show. So at this time, I'm not planning to review Grand Slam. The results will be up on NoDQ.com, I'm sure. But yeah, we do have the NXT Vengeance Day coming up. I'll be recapping that on the 15th. We had Hurt Syndicate coming to the ring for a promo, and MVP praised Private Party, but said these young guys were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's kind of funny to think of Private Party as these young guys when they've been in AEW now for 5 years. They're not exactly rookies, but okay. And then MVP warned the rest of the roster that they're going to get hurt if they get involved, but he's willing to talk business. And at this point, we have the Guns coming out there. The Guns came to the ring and they wanted to conduct business. They said they've waited 2 years to get their titles back. MVP shook their hands, and then a match was set up for next week. The Guns, Billy Gunn's great. The Guns, I mean, I forgot they were gone. I expect the Hurt Syndicate to make short work of them and then move on to something else. We had footage from Harley Cameron winning her first television match on Collision, and she was backstage. She had a Mercedes puppet, and she was cutting a promo mocking Mercedes Moné, and then Mercedes walked up behind her. She was all pissed off. She asked if Harley was stupid or dumb, and then she said Harley is nothing but a loser. I still don't know if we're going to get this match or not. I mean, they could do it at Grand Slam, but apparently Grand Slam's just going to be a 2-hour show. Like if they were actually doing a full-blown pay-per-view, they'd have the time for this. So not really sure where this is going. I do like Harley. I think she's got some potential, but Mercedes, her run has been, even though her matches have been good, I just haven't really had that much investment in it. Next up, we had the Hounds of Hell, which is the House of Black minus Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews against Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita. Odd match to book. So this is the Hounds of Hell's first match on Dynamite. So you would think you want these guys to come out of the gate winning a match. But why would you book them against a team that's obviously not losing before the not pay-per-view, before the Grand Slam? So I thought this was strange. I'm thinking, well, Hounds of Hell shouldn't be winning because you don't want Fletcher and Takeshita losing before they face Osprey and Omega. But then again, Hounds of Hell, they got a new name, new attitude. They shouldn't be losing this quickly. So this was an odd match for me. It was a good match, as you would expect with these guys. Now, here's another weird thing that happened other than booking the match. So midway through, you have Matthews on the top rope and Okada's music hits. Matthews is distracted, but Hounds of Hell are able to regroup and stay in the match. And then there was nothing else from Okada at all. So his music just played and that was it. Very odd. The match continued and Brody tagged in, and then with Takeshita's help, Fletcher was able to give Brody a brain buster. So it was an assisted brain buster, and Brody King got pinned. Okay. I mean, they put up a good fight, but I would not have booked this match personally. And I'm talking about their first Dynamite match, not their first Collision match. Collision doesn't count. Nobody watches Collision. I mean, that's not true. 300,000, 400,000 people sometimes watch, but not a lot watch it. It's the B show. They lost their first Dynamite match. You know, it's like Brian Cage. He can win on Collision or whatever, Ring of Honor, but then he loses on the main show. I would not have booked this match personally, at least this soon. We had Hook and Samoa Joe backstage, and they were looking for Christian Cage, but instead they found Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian. They beat up those guys, and Christian was just watching. So I guess we'll see what happens next with that. Then we had MJF come into the ring for a promo. And MJF said he had to teach Jeff Jarrett a lesson. He said that Jeff Jarrett, he's old. It's not all elderly wrestling. It's all elite wrestling. And then Max Caster came to the ring. He was being a pain in the ass earlier because Hangman Adam Page had been interviewed, and he said he had no regrets about what he did to Christopher Daniels. And then Max Caster was there telling him to wrap things up. So Page proposed a match. Caster took off, and Page went after him. So now Caster's out there still running away from Page. Page comes out there, chases Caster away, and then Dustin Rhodes comes out there. So Dustin Rhodes cuts a promo, and he told MJF to keep Owen Hart's name out of his mouth and also stop talking about people that have dealt with drug and alcohol problems. Dustin said he's a survivor, and he also said he's better than MJF, and MJF knows it. Now, MJF had to bring family into it, saying that Dustin struggled to get out of his father's shadow, and now even worse, Dustin is living in the shadow of his baby brother. And that's when Dustin, of course, attacked him. We had security come out there. We had a pull-apart brawl. MJF breaks through, gives Dustin a low blow. And then later on, they confirmed that it will be Dustin Rhodes versus MJF next week on AEW Dynamite in Austin, Texas. It was a good segment. I thought Dustin did a really good job cutting a promo, and I think it was slightly better than the Jeff Jarrett and MJF segment. It was one of the few highlights of the show. They're doing the match next week, so they're seemingly not going to do a long, drawn-out storyline with these guys. MJF will beat him, get some heat, and we'll move on to something else. But for what it was, this was solid. And I'm not sure why Dustin said Tuesday when the commentator said next Wednesday. I'm not sure what that was about. Right at the 9:30 spot, we had our women's match of the evening. Mariah May on commentary for Toni Storm versus Queen Aminata. But Toni Storm, instead of being the usual timeless character or being the rocker girl, she came out there dressed up and acting like Mariah May. And I thought this was the real highlight of the show. This was the best thing on Dynamite. Toni Storm continues to be very entertaining. She did a great job impersonating Mariah May, and I think she really rocked the attire. I mean, she looked great in the attire. The match itself, showcase match. Queen Aminata was never winning this one, but it was fun for what it was to see Toni Storm out there, and Mariah May was all upset. and frustrated. And of course, Toni won with Mariah's move, the Mayday. And then after the match, Mariah got on the apron and teased that they were going to fight, but then took her title and left. This was a very good segment. I mean, this is the main event of this show, this Grand Slam. And like I said last week, it's a shame it's not a pay-per-view. Like, this would have been a great opportunity to give them the main event spot. And right now, this is the most interesting storyline in AEW. So 100% should be the main event at this point for this show. But it's Grand Slam. It's not a pay-per-view now. It's just your 2-hour show on TNT at 11:30 at night. And the results will already be out. I just feel bad. Like, it should have been live, should have been a Max special. Like, I think that's what they should have done. We had a New York Minute segment with Chris Jericho, the Learning Tree, Big Bill, Brian Keith, and I guess Jericho's putting out a $200,000 bounty on Bandito. I mean, this is so goofy and over the top. And then Will Hobbs came out there. Powerhouse Hobbs got into a brawl, and the Outrunners came out there to help out Hobbs. Then we had security running out there. So this was our third brawl of the show. More security. They get choke slammed by Bill and Hobbs, and then Bill and Hobbs brawl over the announce table. I'll tell you what this needs, like this whole storyline. Over the weekend, Chris Jericho had his cruise, and Enzo Amore was part of it, and he reunited with Big Bill. We need Enzo on Dynamite. Enzo comes out there, gets Bill away from Chris Jericho, and you reunite Enzo and Bill together. Real One, whatever he's going to be known as. I just miss those guys so much. And they have that chemistry together. And yes, people say, oh, it's copying a WWE angle or gimmick, routine, whatever. But Enzo's money. And I think the guy has proven himself. He's stayed out of trouble. I'd like to see him get another opportunity on a big stage. So yes, I think that's how this should end, with Enzo getting Big Bill out of the Learning Tree faction. And Will Hobbs should just beat the crap out of Jericho and end the group and get Jericho out of here once and for all. That's what I want to see at this point. Bandito and Brian Keith, don't care, whatever. I just want to see Hobbs destroy these guys and see Enzo come back. All right, main event time. Ricochet versus Swerve Strickland. Swerve made his entrance, and Ricochet jumped him from behind with a steel chair and got him in the ring. Swerve demanded that the match be started, so it was, and Ricochet immediately hit him with the vertigo, but Swerve kicked out of it, and then they brought on the outside of the ring. Swerve powerbombed Ricochet on top of the barricade, and then after the commercial break, Ricochet regained control, and the crowd was chanting, "Who's bald? Ricochet." They were doing all these bald chants. Pretty good crowd this week. They came up with some unique chants, although they were chanting the F word, and it kept getting censored on TBS at least. I don't know about Max. It was back and forth, and Ricochet did kick out of the house call and stomp combo, and then Ricochet came off the top with a shooting star press. Swerve was able to kick out of that, and then Swerve regained the upper hand. Another house call, and then he came off the top for the stop, but then Ricochet got his hands up, but positioned his hands right where Swerve's genitals were, and it was a low blow, but an inadvertent low blow, thus not a disqualification. And then Ricochet hit the spirit gun to pick up the 1-2-3 victory. this was a very good main event. They got Swerve in a position to lose without making him look weak. He got hit with the chair at the beginning and then the low blow. They can keep the feud going. I liked it. And they set up a rematch. Swerve can potentially get his win back. This was a good main event. Now, I've seen some people say that this was the best Dynamite in months. I would not go that far. Like, I think it was definitely better than last week. I think it was more or less on par with what they've been doing over the past month or two. The Death Rider stuff, they kept that brief, so that's a positive. I mean, I think it was a pretty solid show. I don't think it was great, though. I still think that there are several storylines that I really struggle to get into, namely Cope versus Moxley and even MJF stuff. I mean, it was a good promo, but I'm still waiting for something more with MJF. And the main event was very good. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It was pretty solid, but I still don't think it was where I want it to be. I think they still have more they got to work on. And I agree with Matthew, too many pull apart brawls. I mean, they did 3 of them on this show. So they still got stuff they can work on. 6 out of 10, little better than average, but I still think there's room for improvement. That's my thoughts on Dynamite this week. Thank you all so much for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube, nodq.com/YouTube. Stay tuned to nodq.com for the very latest. Say yes to nodq.com, and I will see you all next time.